I'm an ecstatic yogi. So I went to yoga class. I don't often go to yoga class. I mostly practice myself, or I go to ecstatic dance class. I have been practicing a very, very long time, okay, everybody? Like many lifetimes, no joke. Like even when I started doing yoga, it was like I found my long lost best friend. Like I knew what I was doing. What happens when I do yoga is it's a very inner experience for me. It becomes very hard for me to listen to the teacher pretty much like 10, 20 minutes in, because I start being aware of energy moving within me and how energy wants to move within me. When I bring my awareness to the places inside that call me to bring my awareness to it, what happens is it deepens this experience of pleasure. As I go more deeply into my inner experience and as I work with it consciously, energy opens up in this incredibly blissful and sexual, but it's sexual, but it's throughout the whole body. It feels like my cells are kind of kissed with a combination of orgasmic energy and kind of like bliss, heavenly energy. Like it's not like lust. It's just so deeply pleasurable. Anyways, I'm gonna show you how I practice yoga, okay? And the teacher didn't like it, and he told me to come down because I was doing my own thing in the class, and I can't help it because the energy is so delicious. It's like, do I listen to you or do I listen to God? God. And when I listen to God, it gets really, really pleasurable. So what happens to me when I do yoga, right? This is the downward dog, we all doing, I did it. And it's great, right? But what happens when slowly, you just ever so slowly start to move your hips from side to side, like stirring the pot? I feel like a lot of yoga classes, like they're afraid of the sexual energy opening up, you know? My practice is so sensual, you know, it's so about moving the body, you know, in a way that just feels good. And it's like, there's not a right and there's not a wrong. There's just a way that feels good. And the interesting thing is when I really am listening too, it's like my body aligns in really interesting ways. And as I said, like the energy really opens up. And I don't understand why more yoga classes aren't encouraging students who've been practicing already a little while to explore their own movement more freely and to pursue pleasure in their bodies. There's a right way to do this. I mean, structure's good. I have some structure here. I mean, technically it's still a downward dog, right? I'm going for the energy. I'm going for the subtle energy experience rather than necessarily the physical structure or perfecting the physical structure. Like it's already like just starting to feel good, especially getting into the hips. I mean, I feel like that's just so much more of a feminine practice, you know, as opposed to a very masculine, where you're seeking, you know, to achieve this kind of perfection in your poses, as opposed to pursuing delicious pleasure, not being afraid to get into the hips and really move them. I'm not just a pretty picture, and I got things to say. And one of the things I'm here to say is that patriarchy, unfortunately, has created so many rules and regulations and structures that the free flow of ecstasy and pleasure, unfortunately, gets lost. So I'm here just to remind people that this is a real energy inside all of us, and that by awakening our pleasure, our permission to enjoy our lives, ourselves, our creativity, our bodies, our sexuality, and go to these really delicious places inside ourselves, that we create more health and more joy.